Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. live English news edition. Here are the top stories. State Excellency Mr. Ismail Margele presides the work of the Councils of Ministers. UN declared December 27th as the International Day of Epidemic Preparedness. Hello, welcome to our newsroom for having the news in details. Presided over by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Margele, the Council of Ministers held this morning, Tuesday, December 8th of this month, at the Presidential Palace, the 19th session of this year. During the session, the ministers discussed several legal projects and law on the agenda of the session. As usual, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, the official spokesperson for the government, commented on the most important topics of this session. The details in the video.
Sous la présidence du chef de l'État, Son Excellence M. Ismail Margele, s'est tenue la 19e séance du Conseil des ministres en ce mardi 8 décembre 2020.
The first question concerns a finance bill on the initial budget of the state for the financial year of 2021. The state budget for the financial year of 2021 is set in balance between revenue and expenditure at the sum of 141 billion and 300 million Djiboutian francs, a decrease of 17 billion and 764 million Djiboutian francs, equivalent to a rate of decline of 11%. With regard to the amending budget for the financial year 2020, current expenditure for the financial year 2021 is projected at 95,886,000 Djiboutian francs, and shows a significant drop of 8 million Djiboutian francs, or a decrease of 8%. The rate of growth in relation to the Amending Finance Act of 2020, which has been drawn up, is estimated at 103,924,000 Djiboutian francs. The latter breaks down in part and in insecurities and essentially as follows. The public debt is expected to rise from 10,400,000 Djiboutian francs to 20 million Djiboutian francs in 2020 to 12,791,000 Djiboutian francs in 2021, with a growth rate of 23%. Personal expenditure. This item is estimated at 37,340 million francs for the 2021 finance bill and revised upwards to 900 million Djiboutian francs in relation to the amended 2020 finance bill. Expenditure on equipment. This item has been set at 29 billion and 25 million francs for 2021. This expenditure shows an increase of 70 million Djiboutian francs compared with 2000. In fact, the amount of 14 billion and 700 million Djiboutian francs relating to exceptional expenditure linked to COVID-19 has been revised downwards to 10 billion and 700 million francs. Expenditure on transfers has been stopped at 19 billion and 300 million francs for the Finance Bill 2021 and increases by 500 million Djiboutian francs in relation to the amending Finance Bill of 2020. Investment expenditure, for its part, is stopped at 37 billion and 12 million in the framework of the Initial Finance Law of 2021 and shows an increase of 2 billion and 22 million Djiboutian francs compared to 2020. Domestic investments reached 70 billion and 990 million Djiboutian francs and are planned to increase by 4 billion Djiboutian francs compared to 2020. Investments on external financing are stopped at 19 billion and 22 million within the framework of the Initial Finance Law of 2021, with a decrease of 1 billion and 978 million Djiboutian francs compared to 2020. Budgetary reserves are set at 1,368,000 Djiboutian francs in order to allow the reconstitution of its state's reserves with the central bank. The second issue relates to a draft decree setting the date of the presidential elections and convening the Electoral College. The date of the first round of the presidential elections is set for Friday, 9 April 2021. In the event that no candidate has obtained an absolute majority of the votes cast, A second round open to the two candidates who have obtained the largest number of votes will be held under the same conditions, Friday, 23 April 2021. The third question concerns a draft decree approving the provisional budget for the financial year of 2021. The provisional accounts for the financial year of 2021 of the CRIPEN break down as follows into income of 102,626,000 Djiboutian francs and expenses of 502,626,000 Djiboutian francs. The fourth issue relates to a draft decree approving a rendering enforceable the provision consolidated in 2021 budget of Belti General Hospital. The provisional budget of Belti Hospital is set at 2,861,000 Djiboutian francs in revenue and 2,875,000 Djiboutian francs in expenditure. The fifth issue concerns a draft decree approving and implementing the 2021 consolidated provisional budget for Balbala Hospital of 2021. The provisional budget for Balbala Hospital amounts to 741 million Djiboutian francs. The sixth question concerns a draft decree approving and making enforceable the provisional 2021 budget of the Dr. Shakib Saad Hospital provisional 2021 budget. Dr. Shakib Saad's income is 288,077,000 francs. Djibouti's investment is 121,300,000 francs and operating budget is 68,817,000 francs. In expenses at 288,117,000 Djiboutian francs. The seventh question relates to a draft decree approving and making enforceable the provisional budget of 2021 of the Dar al-Hanan Hospital. The provisional budget of the Dar al-Hanan Hospital is balanced in income and expenses at 1,798,000 Djiboutian francs and is broken down as follows in investment at 277 million Djiboutian francs and in operating at 424,798,000 Djiboutian francs. The eighth question relates to a draft decree approving and making enforceable the consolidated provisional budget of 2021 of the National Reference Center for Reproductive Health Senate and budget of the Center for the financial year of 2021 is established in income at 87,797,000 Djiboutian francs and in expenditure at the same amount. The ninth question concerns a draft decree approving the consolidated provisional budgets of 2021 of the National Institute of Public Health of Djibouti. The budget of the National Institute of Public Health of Djibouti is presented in balance at the sum of 141,066,000 Djiboutian francs and breaks down as follows in investment 38,720,000 Djiboutian francs.
The Ministers' Councils also has been discussed on legal project from this session. Let's proceed with the second part.
La 10e question est relative à un projet d'arrêté.
The 10th question relates to a draft decree approving L'Oréal's provisional budget for the financial year 2021. The 2021 budget of L'Oréal is set as follows in income at 9,074,000,000 Djiboutian francs and in expenses at 9,039,000,000 Djiboutian francs. Positive forecasts result of 34,912,000 Djiboutian francs. The 11th question relates to a draft decree approving the implementation of the provisional budget for the financial year of 2021 of the United Nations Social Development Agency. The provisional budget of the ADDS is as follows. With a charge of 445,802,000 Djiboutian francs, income of 445 million Djiboutian francs, and investment of 4,032,000,000 Djiboutian francs. The 12th question concerns a draft decree approving and making enforceable the provisional electricity budgets of Djibouti for 2021. The aid budget for the 2021 is as follows in terms of income at 29,479,000,000 francs. Djibouti's expenditure is 28,112,000,000 francs. Djibouti in profit at 800 million francs. The amount of investments is estimated at 26 billion francs. The participation of third parties in investment at 1,779,000,000 Djiboutian francs. The capital loans to be repaid at 1,487,000,000 Djiboutian francs. The 13th question concerns a draft decree approving the execution of the provisional budget of the International Hydrocarbons Company of Djibouti. This provisional budget of 2021 of the CDIH amounts in income to 29,372,000,000 Djiboutian francs and in expenses to 28,698,000,000 Djiboutian francs. That is to say, a profit of 674 million Djiboutian francs. The investment budget will be 141,390,000 Djiboutian francs. The 14th question concerns a draft decree approving the 2021 provisional budget of the Urban Rehabilitation and Social Housing Agency, better known as ROLOS. The 2021 provisional budget of ROLOS is established as follows: an income of 3,850,000,000 Djiboutian francs and a charge of 1,090,000,000 Djibouti francs. The 15th question relates to a draft decree approving the provisional budget of the Industrial and Commercial Property Support Office for the year 2021. The 2021 provisional budget of the EPEC lots is as follows: in income at 312,783,000 Djiboutian francs and in expenses at 275,783,000 Djiboutian francs. 3 draft decrees has been presented by the Budget Minister concerning plots of lands. The first decree, dated 23rd December 2018, allocating a plot of land located in Balbala South and covering an area of 110 hectares within the framework of the Zero Slum Program to the Ministry of Housing, a rate of 1,500 francs per square meter for the benefit of the Ministry of Housing. The following decree, still within the framework of real estate development, is allocated for a consideration of 8,500 francs the square meter of a plot of land in favor of the company Habon Construction, 2 plots of land located in Balbala Southeast, with a surface area of 33 hectares. These plots of land will be distracted from the land title number 24214, subscribed to the land register in the name of the Ministry of Housing. The third decree concerning the allocation of plots land therefore concerns the MAC Society, which will benefit from a plot of land of 10 hectares, 3/6 in the Balbala South area, for a consideration of 2,000 francs per square meter. At the end of the session, the Minister of National Education gave a presentation on the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the refounding of the Djiboutian National School during the month of December. The activities marking this commemoration will be organized by the Ministry of National Education.
The National Agency for Persons with Disabilities, in cooperation with the United Nations Population Organization, organized a meeting at the People's Palace on mobilizing against violence on women with disabilities. The ceremony was marked by the presence of the President of the National Assembly, Mohammed Ali Ahmed, the President of the National Human Rights Commission, the General Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, the representative of the United Nations Population Organization, the General Director for Persons with Disabilities, and the head of disabilities networks. Within this overall advocacy framework, the fund implemented the project on the strengthening the rights of persons with disabilities. The aim of the event is part of the awareness raising activities on violence, gender-based violence, which are continuing over a 16 days period in the city and other parts of the country. In a speech by the President of the National Human Rights Committee, Mr. Maki, he said that this phenomenon, which is violence against women with disabilities, exists in our society. We affirm that these women are victims of inappropriate violence, and we have to unite our effort to preserve their rights and protect their social condition. For his part, the General Secretary of the Ministry of Justice and the Penitentiary Authority in charge of human rights explained on this occasion the importance of combating violence against women, especially women with disabilities, and said that it is very important to stress that women with disabilities are sometimes exposed to violence, and that there are studies that indicate that a woman with a disability is more exposed to violence than other women. We call on society to protect the right of this segment of society and not to suffer any violence from those you live with. The government is trying to find a solution to this problem that exists in these times. For his part, the General Director of National Agency for Disabled Persons, Mr. Duali Saeed, in a speech on this occasion, referred to the seriousness towards women with special needs. He said, abuse suffered by women with disabilities is more harmful and worse than violence against other women, and it has negative consequences in society in general and among people with special needs in particular. In the speech of the President of the National Assembly, Mr. Muhammad Ali, he congratulated the great role played by the National Agency for the Disabled Person on this occasion against violence against women in our country. Now, the General Director of the SOS Children Village, accompanied by a youth group, visited the National Assembly. During this visit, the young people of the Children's Village met the President of the Association as well as the representative of the National Organization of the Francophonie present in our country for a 72-hour official visit to Djibouti. During this visit, the young people were able to familiarize themselves with the tasks and work of the Assembly, including how to discuss legal projects and how to make proposals. The talks of the General Director of the Children and Youth Village SOS, who accompanied him with the President of the Parliament, focused on the issue related to the youth of Djibouti. The young people also received a lot of information about the National Assembly and the committees that make it up, as well as the session it holds during the week as well as every month. They also made an observation tour inside the National Assembly's headquarters in order to familiarize themselves with its services and facilities. In his speech, the General Manager of the SOS Village thanked the President of the Parliament and the deputies for offering this opportunity to visit the building and also to meet the young people, the difference between our projects and bill. Within the framework of a working visit, the Minister of Interior, Mr. Mumin Ahmed Sheikh, accompanied by the Prefect of the region of Al Sabih, Mr. Adan Darar, of Dakhil, Mr. Adan Musa Darar, the General Director of Civil Status, Mr. Ahmed Omar, and the President of the Regional Council, Mr. Abdurrahman Are, in addition to the Commander of the Armed Forces of Colonel Idris Omar in the Bandar district, to know the conditions of local citizens. The minister received a warm welcome and a standing ovation on his arrival on the Bandara district by the inhabitants of the area. The minister and his accompanying delegation held a meeting with the local authorities, local and notables of the region, a meeting on the living conditions and ways of dealing with the problems suffered by these people. The minister listened to the complaint and request of the participant in this meeting. The Ministry of Health, His Excellency Mohammed Warsama Diri, and the Ministry of Labor, in charge of administrative reform, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Ibrahim Roble, inaugurated this morning the inauguration of the quarantine and inspection center at the Galilea Border Center in the Al Sabih region. The opening ceremony was held on the presence of the representative of the International Organization for Migration, Mrs. Stephanie Deviot, and the first consular of the United States Embassy, Ms. Andrea. The two ministers received the prefect of the Al Sabih district, Mr. Musa, the notables, and the inhabitants of the city. The delegation also received a warm and friendly welcome. On this occasion, officials cut the opening tape before the start of the visit to the new examination center in Galilee, and it should be noted that the new fully equipped examination center reinforces an examination and monitoring system for COVID-19. The new screening and quarantine center in Galilee, equipped with a laboratory dedicated to saliva test and testing capacity, will be increased tenfold at this particularly congested border post in Galilee. Secondly, to facilitate people's movements by reducing waiting time thanks to rapid saliva test, the ceremony ended with a ceremony of gifts presented by the Minister of Health and the governor and the prefect of the region to thank the partners who have supported this project for the commissioning of this new test center. The head of mission of the International Organization for Migration indicated that the start of the operation of this center has become possible thanks to the joint and integrated effort of all partners involved in the fight against the epidemic to prevent any risk of penetration of the virus. For part, the first consular of the American Embassy has reiterated her government's continued support in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The project consists of setting up a new examination center and the service which is being set up to strengthen the pandemic surveillance at land borders in view of the re-emergence of COVID-19 cases. In his speech, the Health Minister, Mr. Mohamed Warsamadiri, praised the strong support provided by technical and financial partners to implement this national risk against coronavirus. Health Minister, Mr. Mohamed Warsamadiri, also confirmed that this new testing center, first of all, to promote the impermeability against COVID-19 to avoid any risk of penetration of this virus into our territory. He also explained that this center strengthens the pandemic surveillance at land borders and limits the re-emergence of COVID-19. Now, the Community Development Center, the CDC of the 7th District, received a large delegation led by the General Secretary of the International Organization of the Francophonie, Mrs. Louise Mushikiwabo, accompanied by the State Secretary for Youth and Sports. This including the occasion of the reception by representing songs in local language and folk dances by young people in the 7th District and by Djiboutian artists, as well as various presentations on the program implemented at the 7th District Community Development Center. The representative of OIF, accompanied by the State Secretary for Youth and Sport, visited the Clark Center for Reading and Cultural Activities created at the initiative of the OIF and the center's other departments. It should be noted that this center are places for reading, information, training and entertainment and allow young people to take part in social, sporting and cultural activities.
Tanura ay sugaizele Francophonie na sakademe awai tanura na bamme Saratanura ay sugaizele.
Early on Tuesday, December 8, 2020, the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, moved aboard helicopter MiG-17 to go to Ali Aoun, where the Rapid Intervention Battalion BIR is installed. In his trip, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim was accompanied by Brigadier General Tahir Ali Mohammed, Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Hassan Ali Kamil, advisor to the CAMGA, the Colonel Abdullahi Abdi Farah, Director General of the National Police. On landing from the helicopter, the General was welcomed by Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Sowi, Commander of the BIR Battalion. The General then saluted the picked and erected in his honor. Thereafter, the delegation led by General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim attended a brief presentation of the BIR battalion. Note the presence of Colonel Dair Hassan Abedid, Commander of Armored Regiment, and Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Jama Qayyad, Commander of Military School, named President Goulet of Holhol. The purpose of the presentation made by Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Jama Qayyad, Commander of Military School, President Goulet, was focused on the areas of responsibility of the elements prepositioned in this area and the fight against smuggling, a national scourge that plagues the national economy. It was a question of discussing and reflecting together on ways and means of reducing and eradicating this illicit traffic, which has negative impact on the economic development of the country. At the end of the theoretical presentation, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim began the review of the troops in place of the report of Ali Aoun camp. Then the General undertook the promotion to the higher rank of soldiers who have excelled in their field. These laureates were noticed by the excellence of work accomplished, the abnegation in the execution of the assigned tasks, and their willingness to face any challenge. Proud of their performance, the General congratulated them on this promotion and urged them to do more to give the best of them. On the sidelines of the promotion ceremony, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, attended the exhibition of logistical support means. Indeed, the American forces have equipped the Rapid Intervention Battalion with 48 Humvee-type armored tactical vehicles and 6 troop transport vehicles. These vehicles play a major role in the mobility of this battalion and its ability to break up into elementary units. In addition to their mobility capacity, these vehicles, all of which are armored, make it possible to withstand light weapons fire and offer better protection against the explosion of mines under the truck, such as buried improvised explosive devices and land mines. The Court of Appeal hosted on Monday, 7th December 2020, the swearing-in of 5 new state inspectors of the General State Inspectorate. This ceremony took place at the solemn hearing of the Court of Appeal, presided over by the first president of the State Court, Mrs. Nima Ali Warsama, respectively Mrs. Hawa Shamarke, Mr. Yunus Abdul Rashid Ibrahim, Mr. Sher Abdi Gahir, Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed, Mr. Mukhtar Abdi Jama. These women and men have undertaken to perform their duties with impartiality, integrity, and to observe in all respect, to reserve honor and dignity that this function requires in accordance with the constitutional laws and regulation of the Republic. Let us also recall that the extension of the State Inspectorate are to promote good governance and transparency, to ensure good management of public affairs in the fight against corruption, and to optimize the practices of public organization. Now, the Deputy Prefect of the 2nd Arrondissement, Mr. Haibe, shared an important meeting yesterday in his office on health and how to deal with drugs. This meeting was attended by the chief doctors of the community centers of the district, to the sub-prefecture of the 2nd district, the representative of the CNSS, of the doctor at the Ministry of Health, the National Police Forces, and the Republican Guard of the district. The health officials who attended this ceremony with the sub-prefecture discussed ways and means of protecting the Poles against various seasonal diseases such as malaria and how to fight against drugs. Now, following the death of the late Nim Amos Roble, His Excellency the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Margeli, expressed his sincere condolences to family and loved ones of the late Nima Musa, and to convey to her family patience and comfort. Nima Musa, who was born in the Ali Sabih region in 1960, was a great supporter of the RPP, and the late wife left 7 children and a number of grandchildren. As I mentioned on the title, moving on to international news, the UN General Assembly on Monday adopted a resolution declaring 27th December International Epidemic Preparedness Day, as the spread of COVID-19 highlighted a lack of anticipation in this regard. The text invites all member states, UN entities, and other global, regional, and sub-regional organizations, the private sector, and civil society, including non-governmental organizations, to observe the International Day for Epidemic Preparedness annually. The resolution encourages the 193 member countries of the United Nations to organize information and awareness-raising activities to highlight the importance of epidemic prevention, preparedness, and partnership in responding to the epidemics. It also calls on the World Health Organization to contribute to the celebration of the International Day. The text, which is non-binding, was co-proposed by Cambodia, Canada, Equatorial Guinea, Palestine, Nicaragua, Niger, Qatar, Saint Vincent and the Grenade, Senegal, Singapore, South Korea, Spain, Tajikistan, and Vietnam. This is it for this edition of 9 p.m. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful evening.